Good morning. Do you believe in curses? I think by the time you finish watching my show, you just might. I actually do believe that I have been cursed for some reason. I call it the Kling curse because my mother and I both had the last name of Kling, and we both had some issues with what I would call cursing, a curse. Basically, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. And as I said, this has not just started happening to me. And believe me, I am not paranoid. When you hear the story, it's a show. Keep watching because I think when you hear my entire life story, when I first started noticing the curse, you may just agree with me. And some of you out there may share some of the experiences that I have had in the last 55 years, or at least as long as I can remember, which is probably back to about um, I guess 9 when my teeth were so horrible and my mother started taking me to the orthodontist and it was a horrific experience and none of my other friends in school had these same issues and it was horribly painful and it was ugly. My teeth were ugly and then the braces were ugly and that was just a long drawn out thing. And of course my orthodontist appointments where they tightened the braces, back then that's what they did, and for a week you had severe pain. And the orthodontist appointments were always before a major event in my life, like a school dance or Christmas or my birthday or something that I wanted to enjoy but could not enjoy because my teeth were, I was in agony. So that's when I remember it starting. And it continued to happen. And so many of you may see yourselves in my story, and I'd like to hear your stories as well in the discussion part and the comments for this show, because I'm sure I'm not alone in feeling that my entire life has been cursed in a way. Yes, I have had many blessings, but let me just start with my childhood. When I was a kid, I used to look so forward to any fun plans. I was an only child, so anytime I would be knowing that we were going to go to my cousins, whom I love dearly, my cousins Nikki and Tim, and I would get to be around them and their mom, and who recently passed away, God rest her. Um, I was so excited, but then I would get sick, or one of them would get sick, and my plans were canceled. It just always, almost always happened, or there'd be a snowstorm and we couldn't drive to their house. And things like that continued to happen. Once a year, my mother could afford to take me on vacation, me and my grandmother, to Wildwood, New Jersey. And she had to schedule her vacation way ahead of time, make the reservations. So the week was set in stone. And I can't tell you how many times that for 5 days in Wildwood, New Jersey, whenever we would get there, it would just start raining. Just rain for 5 full days. We had very little good weather. And that has continued into my adulthood. Even now, when I look forward to something, I can't tell you how many times the weather has completely ruined something that I was so looking forward to, especially down at the trailer. The Halloween party last summer. This summer, it went off without a hitch, but last summer, I had my costume. Everybody was so excited. And then we had torrential downpour, and it was canceled. And Super Bowl, my beloved Eagles finally win a Super Bowl. We were invited to a huge party, but we had a major ice storm on Super Bowl Sunday when the Eagles played and beat the Patriots and won. And so we ended up watching the Super Bowl of all Super Bowls, just me and Jason, all by ourselves. No one to celebrate with, and it was a shame. And it was so disappointing. And so this is why when some people comment that I'm a negative person, well, that's not entirely correct because I think negativity is not necessarily something you're born with. I think it's something you learn from experience. And my experience has been if I'm looking forward to something, it usually gets canceled. It doesn't happen. My wedding, for God's sake. By the time I was engaged to be married to Jason, I had been to 30 weddings. Family weddings, friends' weddings, they all went off without a hitch. The families were all together, the parents were there, the grandparents were there. It was perfect. Princess for a day. And I was like, I can't wait till I get princess for a day. But I knew in the back of my head, and I even said to my husband, I'm not getting my big wedding. And I knew that because the day after I got engaged, my mother called me on the phone and said, I'm bleeding. And my mother had had these issues all of her life. That was her curse, is that she always had reproductive issues. Her uterus had huge fibroids in them. And unfortunately, because of her curse, at the time when she was experiencing these issues, it was the same time when doctors and hospitals and insurance companies were trying to cut back on the amount of hysterectomies they did. And so my mother never had a hysterectomy available to her until she was 68 in 2004. And then it was so bad that they had no choice. And of course, most of you know the story. They killed her. She went in for a hysterectomy, and 4 days later, she was dead. Because at the same time, she had a hernia operation, and the doctor who did the hernia operation made a really, really deadly and tragic mistake, and never paid for it, by the way. So 7 months before my big day, we were supposed to get married October 29th of 2004. It was going to be a Halloween wedding. It was going to be amazing. My mother's dead. And we ended up getting married very quickly in our living room because life is too short, and also to protect our assets. My mom left me a little bit of money, and I didn't want anything to challenge Jason's right to that money if something happened to me suddenly, because my mother's sudden death made us realize that anything can happen at any time, at any age, to anybody. And so I did not get my big princess for the day wedding. And you might say, oh, poor you. Well, yeah, poor me. I went to 30 weddings. I gave gifts. I saw my cousins and my friends be able to celebrate their big wedding day with the people they loved the most, their friends and family. I didn't get to do that. And I'm the only one who didn't get to do that in my entire family. All of my cousins had their big weddings. Expensive big weddings. Now you might say, yeah, but aren't you glad you didn't spend the money? Now, yes, because weddings are too expensive. But still, just me. Everybody else got their big day. Hell, some of my cousins have had 2 weddings and made it through without a hitch. I can't even have one. I am not truly a negative person. Every day when I wake up, I am in a very good mood. I wake up, I come downstairs, I can't wait to start my day. I can't wait to get into the book I'm reading, to catch up on shows that I'm watching on DVR, or on Showtime, the series. And then something happens. And my whole day is turned upside down. And you're like, sure, that happens to everybody. Does it happen to everybody like every day? In 2000, several years ago, I think it was 2014, our car was parked. It was paid for truck parked in front of, on our street. Bam! Our neighbor got drunk and totaled it. Now we have car payments. The same week, 2 days later, my stove, my oven, my gas stove, I smell gas. Fire department comes. We have to buy a new stove on top of having to buy a new car now and have car payments again. That was in 1 week. Every freaking day. And you think you're losing your mind, right? How can these things keep happening? Can we add any more shit to the shit pile? And this is what has been happening to me in the last 2 weeks. You all know the story, most of you, that I had to cut my vacation at the trailer short due to an electric co-op that gets their electric from an electric company who can't seem to provide reliable electricity. And for me, electricity is the most important thing. We're going to be doing a show about that, in fact, about the PGE thing in California, where they almost killed people and there was a suspected death that was caused by their purposeful power outages, intentional outages because of wildfires. That's another show. So I was looking forward all year. I look forward to September and October at the trailer because it's the best time. The weather is crisp and cool. There's nobody around. It's very quiet. You can hear the leaves crackling in the wind. You can open up all the windows. You don't need air conditioning. It's just a beautiful time. There's no kids around. It's great. And I didn't get to do that this year. I had to come home early because I can't live without electricity. And I was being forced to do that. So I came home, and for 3 days, I had a great 3 days. I got home on a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I was on fire. I was decorating my house for Halloween. I was doing laundry. I was organizing. I was cleaning. I was having a wonderful time. And then, bam, Wednesday, first week I'm home. My dog has watery diarrhea. We got to take her to the vet. Well, she's got an intestinal thing. It's going around. How can it be going around? She's never around other dogs. Where'd she get it from? So she's on medication. Okay, fine. She's on medication. Next day, my phone of 4 years, my cell phone, it won't make phone calls. Every time I try to make a phone call, I talk for 2 minutes, boom, calls drop. Calls drop. Calls drop. Husband's not having any problem with his phone in the same house. So I'm like, well, you're going to the Bay this weekend. I need a phone. So he went out at lunch, spent 2 hours, brought me home a Samsung 820. Please remember that name. Do not buy that phone. The Samsung 820 smartphone. Don't buy it. Please don't buy it. Brings me this new phone. Takes me a couple days. I learn how to use it. I'm not technically smart like some people. I'm 55. Only got a cell phone when I was 50. No. Actually, I'm 54. I'll be 55 in December. So all of a sudden, this phone is dropping calls. The same damn thing the old phone did. And this is serious, folks, because guess what happened this past weekend on Sunday? I woke up, my husband was out of town again, 2 hours away, and my dog is very ill again. She had just gone off the diarrhea meds, and now she is having a urinary issue. She's peeing blood. She is in obvious pain. She's huffing and puffing. I try to call my husband at the Bay because I need to explain what's going on and get him to come home. Drop call, drop call, drop call. Do you know what that feels like? He thought it was possibly him. Okay? Because at the Bay, a lot of people don't get good cell reception. No, we've never had that issue with Verizon. It was the phone. So, let's finish with the dog. The dog went to Pets, very expensive. It's the ER service. Yes, she has a urinary tract infection, and now she is back on meds again. Very hard to give this dog meds. So this is all in a period of really 1 week, 2 weeks. So finally, my husband says, okay, we need to call the Verizon store. And this is part of this story that is really, when I go off, and there is a reason for that. We call Verizon. We have been customers with them for 20 years. They should know who my husband is, correct? He is a customer as Jason Luciano, and he had it under his business as well, To Simplify Web Solutions. They should know him, right? And the only reason he's calling is for tech support to see if there's something that we're doing wrong with this phone to fix it. Well, Mr. Luciano, we need your PIN number. So he gave them the number he thought was his PIN number. No, that's not correct. And he's like, well, wait. And then I start getting in on it. I'm like, wait a minute. All we need to know, I'm standing right here. I'm his wife. It's about my phone. You have my phone number registered. We just want to know what's going on with my phone. Nope. Here's what we have to do. We have to get you a new PIN number, email it to you. So it took basically 20 minutes to even get them to speak to my husband, a 20-year customer, spends a lot of money with Verizon, just to get him to be able to tell them the problem with the phone. And at the end of that, well, I think there's something wrong with the phone. It's defective. Your wife needs a new phone. So my poor husband had to go out without even having dinner and get me a new phone. We were being treated like Al-Qaeda, whatever. And I'm not a criminal, and I am so sick and tired of being treated like a criminal. You know the saddest part? Every day, people's identities are stolen. And the banks we trust and the credit card companies we trust, they lose our information because they get hacked. It's nothing that we did, and yet we can't make a phone call for tech support without basically giving a blood sample to prove we are who we say we are. Now, any of you who have been the victims of identity theft or your accounts have been hacked, did they catch the person who did it? I bet they didn't. Because these people are smart. The criminals are smart. All this shit that they make you jump through hoops to even talk to somebody about your product or your account, it's not stopping the criminals. It's only making us frustrated, the law-abiding citizens who have never broken the law. And it's frustrating. Look at this Real ID bullshit. In order to travel in my own country, they want me to provide proof that I live where I say I live with utility bills. Guess what, folks? No utility bills are in my name. They're in my husband's name. He pays the bills. Okay? He pays the bills. I don't have utility bills in my name. What I do have, if they would just do a background check on me, first of all, no arrest record, clean record, maybe a parking ticket 30 years ago. And I have lived at this address all of my life. From the day I got my driver's license when I was 16 years old, my address has never changed. I also have the deed to this house with my name on it. I own this house. There's no mortgage on this house. I own it. It's free and clear. Yet I have to jump through hoops if I want to get on a plane and travel in my own country, or I have to get a passport, which is expensive. And I don't got any plans to leave my country, but I've got to have a passport now if I want to get on a plane and fly from Pennsylvania to anywhere else. Even to fly from Pennsylvania, from Lancaster to Pittsburgh, in my own state, I need this Real ID. I got to prove. And guess why? They say it's because of 9/11/01. Dudes, that was 21 years ago. And when, in the last 20 years, have we ever had another plane fly into a building, another hijacked plane in America? We haven't. So this Real ID crap is not going to stop any terrorists from doing whatever they want to do, but they're not going to do the plane thing again, guys. They already did it. And it was such a success, they're not going to do it again because they know we're on the defense now. We know. We're careful. This Real ID is not going to stop any terrorist act. But what it does is, again, it punishes law-abiding citizens. And it's annoying, it's frustrating, and it pisses me off, and it should piss all of you good people who obey the law and are who you say you are. It should piss you off too. Now, here is something where you should have to jump through hoops, but you don't have to. Some of you are going to get mad at me for saying this, but when you go into a gun store or you go to a gun show and you want to buy an AR-15, a military-grade automatic weapon that can shoot 200 bullets in 5 minutes, then, my friends, you should have to jump through hoops. We all should. Especially those who are mentally ill. And oh, I am stigmatizing mentally ill people. No, I'm not. I feel bad that you have a mental illness. Problem is, you have a mental illness. You don't get a gun. And nobody in this country should have a military grade weapon to go hunting or to defend their person and their property. Period. And that will be my show next week. Unfortunately, because of the way certain people bow down to the NRA, we don't have to jump through hoops. And what is really sad and what I want you to think about and what I want to discuss in the comments for this show is that it is easier to go into a store, go to a gun show, and get an AR-15 than it is to get a real ID driver's license or even a passport. So you can travel freely in your own country. Let's talk about it. Political Paula, out.